Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be a pretty quick little video. Just kind of want to tell you guys a little bit on the beginner guide for version 4.0. I think the last time I did it was really long ago towards I think maybe even for version 2. I don't even think I did one for version 3. Can't really remember. But we are going to be taking a look at a really quick one for version 4 because frankly speaking, a lot of things has changed in Honkai Star for the past at this point it's been almost 3 years. So without further ado, let's jump into today's content. So for the general structure that we're going to be going with is pretty much going to be split into these 7 different categories. So feel free to jump into timestamps for whichever one it's going to be. Why start now? What changed? Progression guide, pulling advice, the freebies from the 5 stars, team building, as well as an endgame checklist. Especially if you guys are going to be new players that just started into playing Honkai Star, or you're going to be returning players, you quit for a while for whatever reason, and then today you're going to be coming back for version 4, right? So the first of which is going to be, why do you want to start Honkai Star right now? There's this good saying, gacha game, which is the best time to start in the gacha game is going to be yesterday. The second best time is going to be today. Now for HSR, this is pretty much going to be the same thing as well, but specifically for version 4.0, that's going to be our current patch. We have a lot of freebies that will make a new player experience in HSR a lot friendlier compared to when you guys are going to be starting out back then. So for a benchmark in comparison, me personally, when I started my free play account, Bob, right? I started in the start of version 3.0 on the Herdas banner, and I can safely say compared to just last year, the amount of quality of life as well as freebies that we're going to be getting in version 4.0, it is a completely separate thing. Because back when I started, I had to use Gallagher, literally E0 Gallagher. I had to cook up with my RMC, which honestly is a really good unit, right? Then picked up my D Herda, used my B Herda, and then just slowly try to build my team from there. Nowadays it's going to be super different. So for now, the most important aspect is when it comes to a sustain, which is pretty much one of the biggest issues that you'll be facing as a new player. We are going to be getting a DHPT, right? DHPT, that's going to be completely for free. Current tier 0 sustain, you work with every single attack, scaling, DPS you can think of, and it will only last until the end of version 4.0. So from now until to the end of Sparksy, you can still claim this unit completely for free, and you're going to be pretty much running this forever. Even till this day, my free-to-play account, 1 year later, DHPT has been a constant slot in my attack teams every single time. Right? He's just that good, E0, S0, completely fine. So pick it up, you're going to be having an exceptional time. Back then, before I even got myself my Gallagher, I had to literally use Bailu, which to a certain extent it was fine, but as the sustained pressure got higher, DHPT over here is going to be a lot stronger, and you guys can feel it the moment you build him yourself, right? We also have a lot of 5-star selector as well as gold tokens. So for example, you can pick your Run May, pick the free Sparkle, but we're talking about it a little bit more towards the later segments, as well as if you guys want a free Run May skin, which I think looks absolutely insane, that's also going to be there as well. Aside from the free 5 stars, we also have a lot of beginner benefits. For example, 33 limited pools as of right now, and you do have a chance of getting the 0.01% of 100 pools. So if you get that, fantastic. Very good new banners for Yao Guang as well as Sparksy, which will pivot very well into your version 4 elation. A huge gameplay overhaul, so a lot of quality of life updates we've been going through, as well as from my personal free-to-play experience. If you're going to be playing HSR, at least back in version 3, I got around roughly 200 over limited summons. From purely playing the game, right? From purely progressing through the story, progressing through the events, just at the initial launch, not throughout the course of 1 year. From the very first one-time reward, you get at least, I would say, 200 plus over pools. As of right now, 1 year later, at this point at version 4, I'm pretty sure this reward will just keep going higher and higher. So my free-to-play account, back then, you guys can see my free-to-play account update. I did get slightly under 1,200 free-to-play pools as a complete free-to-play, right? $0 spent. So take it as you will, and then we're going to be going on into the next segment. Now, what exactly changed in Honkai Star Rail compared to the earlier version? So, for example, if you have never played or you quit in around version 1, even version 2, frankly speaking, it feels almost like a different game, but with a little bit of the skeletal structure still being in place, right? So the most important thing is the progression you're going to be feeling from the story is going to be a lot faster. So you can kind of just skip through your individual segments of the story and decide which ones you're going to be going for, and it can help you propel into your respective game content a lot faster, right? So the leveling restrictions, for way back in version 1 or even version 2, you had those trailblaze level caps that you had to hit those levels before you can progress through the story. Nowadays, Nowadays, they streamline it a lot, so you can actually just blast through whenever you want if you want to feel like doing it. Storage optimization, where if you want to delete the old story cutscenes or whatever things you want to delete, it is going to be a lot friendlier for mobile players, as well as a massive quality of life function with regards to your quick farming, right? They did implement quick farming. It is not going to be permanent. It is going to be coming from this currency, which you will obtain from Currency Wars, which is another endgame content. It's not like a gameplay mode if you like TFT, but you do get these skip tickets, which will instantly allow you to farm pretty much all of your things that you need in HSR, right? We also have these like deep immensifiers, which is going to be your skip ticket for your SU. So generally speaking, the amount of time you're going to be spending to just dump your daily stamina, it is extremely efficient. In fact, I would say HSR as of right now is probably one of, if not the most time efficient gacha games you can think of, because the dailies are just so fast. You can kind of just finish everything within 5 minutes and you're just done and build units and can just move on from there, right? So that's pretty much going to be our major changes. And now moving on into the next 7, and that's going to be a quick little progression guide. So for your progression guide, this is going to be a little bit different depending if you're going to be a new player or a returning player. I will just first start off with a general basis because this can be applied to pretty much anyone. Raise at least one team first, right? Focus on your one team. If you're brand new, then you always want to focus on levels, followed by tracers, followed by relics. So levels being on both character as well as your light code. So you pretty much want to blaze through your MSQ as much as you can, as well as unlocking all of those limited events. For example, the current Divergent Universe, which is going to be expiring in roughly 30 days as of this time of recording. So for both new and returning, just try to clear all of these one-time content so you can unlock as many of the in-game content as possible, as well as getting access to a lot of one-time clear rewards that are stellar cheats for your pools and everything, right? Aside from that, when it comes to your progression, you can start on a little bit of gold relics for your base stats, particularly if you have a couple of resins which you can obtain from events. You can use those to craft your boots, body, sphere, as well as rope, just for the main stat, as well as maybe a little bit of subset. You do not really want to care about the perfect gears, especially early on, or if you're going to be a returning player and you just don't really have anything to go with because you need to farm like a brand new relic set. Just get something decent enough to get you through, and then focus on your levels and tracers first if you have not leveled them enough yet, right? So for this particular moment, if you're a brand new player, you do not need to care about endgame at all, right? Because endgame is going to be, I would dare say, at least 1 month before you can actually build a proper 2 team for most of our endgame content. For the returning players, you probably will get this a little bit faster, but a lot of your older teams with poor relics and you don't have any of the new units, the environment is going to be very different from back then. So you definitely need to raise up your new teams or just make your old teams stronger to try to tackle endgame content again. So don't worry about it too much as well. So when it comes to your second as well as third team content, you don't really want to just look at the current meta, because HSR's meta, they changed per versions very quickly. So version 2 it was going to be Super Break as the flagship, version 3 being Remembrance, and most likely version 4 is probably going to be Elation. So it always changes within this 1 year time frame, and there really isn't a point to chase for that specific meta in every single version, because eventually at the end of the day, you are just going to be able to clear them anyways, because they will always rotate out these different rotations. So for example, Super Break became pretty weak at the start and middle of version 3, but towards the end, they brought back Dahlia, and all of a sudden Super Break is really strong, right? So focus on a team, especially your team 2 and team 3, on a team that you like to play, something that you enjoy, and then focus on that one team to get you through majority of the game's content, and that will make sure that your progression HSR is going to be very smooth, right? And then in the future, when they introduce more teams, so ending besides Elation, right, in version 5, version 6, you can see it if you really want to enjoy playing them, or you want to stick with your older things from there. Now, moving on into the pooling advice, first of all, check out this video over here just for a quick little summary. I think it's less than 50 minutes, talking about the current banners, reruns, etc. So I would also be splitting this for both new as well as returning players. For the new players, I would say putting Ezio, Ezio, Yao Guang, as well as using the Mushroom S5 is going to be fantastic. And generally speaking, your very first banner as a new player, it's almost always going to be a mouse pool, because there's not a lot of point on trying to save, since you don't have a lot of access to the tools that will upgrade your team. You pretty much just have a free DHPD, right? Maybe you have a free Sparkle. You could consider claiming the free 5-star for a DPS if you really want to, but generally pulling for the current banner right now, it will tend to scale into the future versions, at least for the next 1 year, right? And because you're going to be bombarded with a lot of fools at the start, whether or not you want to commit with them or leave them easier as well, it's going to be completely fine and up to you. So for my personal experience, when I was a free to play, I put up D Herda immediately, right? As of right now, my D Herda is still E0 S0, but she is still clearing out endgame content. She might not be the fastest clears, but at the end of the day, because I invested in her in the early and mid game, it made my experience as a new player a lot more enjoyable, which is why I would say, even for new players, you can just pick up the E0 S0 Yao Guang. If you really don't like her, you can just wait a little bit more and you get yourself the E0 S0 Sparksy to make your early game experience a lot better, right? The most important thing is at least have that good DPS to build your team around said DPS. As of right now, because you have MC, right, which is going to be Remembrance MC, super strong, you have the HPD, and assuming you do pick up a free Sparkle, then the last slot left, it really is just going to be a DPS for you. So other than that, once you pop Yao Guang, I would say if you want to pick up on Elation, you can prepare for an E0 S1 Sparksy and then see where you want to take things from in version 4.1 as well as 4.2. But for Elation, we're not too sure exactly how the flagship or like the team building is going to look, right? Because as of right now, there might be two different frameworks where one of the Elation team focuses on a lot of punchlines and the other Elation team focuses a lot more on the actual aha instance, which is going to be Sparksy as well as Yao Guang respectively. So for players that don't really know exactly what do they want, you can kind of just hold on to your pools and see what is going to be the future roadmap for the 4.1 live stream, because for this particular banner, Yao Guang's banner actually lasts 6 weeks. So on the same duration as a Sparksy, you'd have no rush to pull her immediately. And then for the free units, I will highly recommend getting the free Sparkle as well as on top of the free DHPD, and you have your team settled. And then for the returning players, if you want to finish up on your Remembrance flagship, I would just go ahead and pick up the E0 S1 Evernight, especially if you pick up, for example, say Castris and Hyacinth, right? You got Tribi, maybe you skipped Cyrene, or maybe you didn't get Cyrene, maybe you missed out on Evernight. Evernight right now is pretty much going to be the final piece of the puzzle, and she will drastically improve your Castris performance. So for Remembrance flagship, just go ahead and get that. If you're going to be a DOT main for a returning player, I would recommend getting either Black Swan or Kafka, but preferably you have both at the same time. So if you put up Black Swan back in version 2 and you quit and didn't really invest that much, you can just pick up the Hyacinth and get yourself the Black Swan Hyacinth Kafka team for DOT, slap on a sustain with either DHPD or Huo, and then you're gonna be in very, very good hands. And then if you're gonna be a final main, we do have a Sarija rerun coming for the Sparksies banner. So for final mains, even if you're gonna be an E2, Sarija is like super good, even at E0, so just go ahead and pick up that one copy. And then for Islanders as well as Signature Lycons, I would say for E1s, Evernight, Black Swan, and Yao Guang, they're really good. For E2 is gonna be Evernight as well as Sparksy. And then for Signature Lycons, Yao Guang, Sparksy, and Evernight signatures are all really decent. Everything else is like, they're fine, but if you only really want to invest in them, then I would go for it, right? Specifically for Black Swan, I would not recommend picking her up unless you're gonna be purely playing for DOT. Now, moving on to the next segment, this part is just pretty much going to be some of our flares we're going to be expecting to see in version 4. If you're going to be a returning player and you already invested in 2 or even 3 or more teams, then you don't really need to care about it that much. But this is more so for a roadmap if you have no idea what team you want to build as a new player or returning player coming back into HSR. So the very first team is going to be very easy, and that's going to be our Elation pivot, right? So what I mean by pivot is, as of right now, we don't have Sparksy, which is actually our real Elation DPS, since Yao Guang itself actually doesn't really do too much damage. So right now, we are most likely going to be getting our EMC in the future versions, just like RMC and HMC from the 2 different versions, from version 2 as well as version 3. So because of that, you have your free DHPD, you have your EMC coming out in the future. So the Sparkle that you pick up for free, that last slot is pretty much going to be the Elation unit. You can either have it to be Yao Guang or you can have it to be Sparksy in the future. Now, if you want to talk about the highest possible damage in the Elation, you can and probably should eventually pivot out your Sparkle for another Elation unit, because the way that the Elation team is going to be structured right now is they want your entire team to be Elation. So all the units you see, which is going to be DHPD and Sparkle, they will most likely not be the final team going forward in the future. But that's kind of like the beauty of the pivot, because you can make use of these units for now. And then when you get more units coming into the actual Elation team, you can then use these other units like Sparkle as well as DHPD on the other team, which will make team building a lot more flexible for you, since both DHPD and Sparkle, especially after Sparkle with the buff, they are really strong, generally speaking, in HSR. For another team you can kind of want to consider, but this is not really recommended for now, it's going to be the Akron Overlord, because as of right now, aside from her, you could say Finon, but she's going to be the most comfortable unit when it comes to your overall mob clearing. When it comes to your overworld, your SU, your DU, you can one-shot the mobs, and she is still, relatively speaking, decently strong enough to clear your content, but I probably would not invest in my free selector if you do not have Sparkle. I think personally, Sparkle's meta placement is going to be a lot stronger. And then lastly, for our OG DOT, personally, I think that DOT is actually one of the most stable teams in HSR. Not to say that they clear the strongest or the fastest, but it's just that for every single version in DOT, they always have this kind of upgrade that's added to the core slots. So in version 1, we have Kafka, version 2 we have Black Swan, version 3 we have Highlands. So we are probably most likely even gonna be getting a version 4 upgrade for DOT because we always have this, right? And on top of that, we just got a Black Swan buff. So DOT as of right now is gonna be at a very strong placement, and they never really fell out of flavor ever since HSR was a thing. You could always see DOT clearing every single endgame content, and the good thing about DOT team is that if you want to give them vertical investments, they are relatively cheap, right? You get an E1 Kafka, you get an E1 Black Swan. You don't really need to think about pulling any other units that are not DOT because it's very clear cut, right? Does this unit work with DOT? Yes. Pull? No. Then you just kind of just skip everything. So I would say DOT for players that don't really want to care about like the changes in the meta, changes in the rate up, the flagship. It is a very stable coin to invest in. So I would say get your free runway if you can. If you do not want to claim your free runway and stick with the triple DOT plus sustain, that's fine as well. But you definitely need Kafka, right? Kafka is gonna be a must. It is the most necessary unit for any team in HSR. You have to have Kafka or DOT, and then from there you can either pick up both Black Swan and Highlands, which are gonna be on banner, or pick up one of them, then claim a free runway, depending on how much pools you want to invest in them. So that's gonna be up to you. So those are gonna be the team comps that we're gonna be exploring. For future team comps in Elation or any other Elation Shield similar teams, you can kind of see our future videos to get an idea for that. And now lastly, moving on into our endgame checklist. So this is assuming you have your team comps, you have your progression, you have everything set up, you know what to do. I would say this is not something that you can consider, especially for a new player in the first 1 month, because you definitely need at least 2 teams for the rotational endgames and 3 teams for anomaly arbitration, right? So for your MOC, Pure Vision and APOC is going to be pretty much exact same. You don't really have too big of a change. For players that never played HSR before, they are basically 2 team content that were specialized in different areas of expertise. So MOC is gonna be the more restrictive ones because you only have 1 single buff. But for Pure Vision and APOC Shadows, they have 3 different buffs to choose from, which can work with multiple different sources of different teams, so they can more or less get yourself the 3 stars relatively easily, right? So as usual, it's not going to be a problem if you can't clear as of now, because most likely you're going to be bound by your levels, your tracers, as well as your relics, especially as a new player. Eventually, when you have a proper team building with a decent, not even like tip-top level of investment, just decent level investment, you should be able to get your 3 stars relatively quickly. So for my free-to-play account, I think after like slightly more than a month, we started clearing every single endgame rotation without fail, full 3 stars, and that's pretty much going to be it. Now, another endgame content is going to be your anomaly arbitration. So this is going to be Honkai Star Rail's 3-team endgame content. So you need 3 teams for Knights, but you only need 1 team for King. For the whales and the ultra big spenders, if you could just clear Plight mode for the anomaly arbitration Plight mode for your E6 units, then you technically only just need 1 team, so to each their own. For this one, it's going to be completely optional. It's going to be, I would say, one of the hardest difficulty content in HSR because there are no strategies. So it is purely just going to be a little bit of resins as well as some shop currencies you can use to claim more of the consumables as well as your progression materials, but nothing related to your pool income. So if you can't do it, don't worry about it whatsoever. Then other endgame content that's not really a rotational endgame content, but I would say is a pretty big component in HSR, aside from the events, which are going to be refreshable on a version basis, we also have currency war as well as the currently almost expiring Divergent Universe. So Divergent Universe is going to be one for Amphorius, so you're going to be here the night and day and cycle, but the thing is, DU is going to be going away roughly 1 month, so the rewards are not going to be claimable anymore and they will reset. So highly recommended if you're going to be a new player, clear out Divergent Universe first, because it comes with a lot of premium currency, right? Your resins, your Trailblazer, your little balls, right? Your Stellar Jades. So clear this first and then look into other things as you would progress when you can. And then for currency war, personally speaking, this is one of the most fun game modes I've ever played in HSR. It is pretty much like TFT, but they made it extremely extensive. There's a lot of different factions, a lot of different buffs. Feel free to explore if you are going to be a TFT fan. And yes, this does come with a lot of currency as well as progression materials, such as your quick farm tickets as well as all of those strategies. So play this whenever you possible. But both of these are not going to be as urgent. But Divergent Universe is going to be the most urgent because once it goes away, everything is going to be gone from there. With that, we've come to the end of our very quick little beginner's guide in version 4.0. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below or just join our Discord at discord.gg/PokkesVillage and I'll see what we can do from there, right? So hope you guys enjoy our version 4. All the best for the gacha pools. Join Twitch, YouTube, Discord. Use code POKKE for 10% off gamer subs. All the best for gacha pools. See you guys next time. Take care.